welcome everyone on this official platform of Legacy IAS Academy. So first of all, I welcome all of you on this NCERT series. Now, first of all, why NCERTs are important? See, NCERTs are considered as the basic foundation for your preparation, not only for UPSC, for each and every examination. Now, NCERT creates a base for all the GS paper in your UPSC examination. There are basically four basic pillars: history, geography, polity, and economy. These core subjects create base for other subjects in UPSC examination. But how to prepare for these core subjects? So you also need a base over these core subjects. So first of all, let me tell you, NCERTs are considered as sacred books for UPSC examination. So if you want to have holistic preparation for UPSC examination, you need to have a command over NCERT. See, three things are very important in this examination. First is NCERT. Second is newspaper. Third, advanced classes. So, if you want to understand the advanced classes as well as the newspaper, you need to have a base, and that base you are going to get from NCERT classes. So, without wasting our time, we are going to begin with our session. So, my name is Harshit Umar, and I am going to take all the history chapters of NCERT. So, today we are starting with class 6 NCERT, in which there are some important chapters on history, which is actually related to your ancient history. So the first chapter that we are going to discuss today is chapter number 4 in your social science, which is related to timeline and sources of history. Now, why timeline is important? See, try to understand timeline. History is all about past, present, and future. So timeline is very important, and history is a never ending dialogue. As you can see here on your screen itself, which is written by E.H. Carr, history is an unending dialogue between past and present society. Okay. Now, why history is important? See, history gives you the story of past so that you can make your future better. You can understand your present. You can make your future glorious. That is why history is important. Now, with respect to timeline, in history, dates are not important, but chronology is very important. Why? Because in UPSC examination, history is not about dates. बहुत सारे लोगों को ये कंफ्यूजन रहता है, ये एक भ्रम रहता है कि हिस्ट्री में बहुत सारे डेट्स याद करने पड़ेंगे. नो, हिस्ट्री इज ऑल अबाउट सेंचुरीज, इट इज नॉट अबाउट डेट्स. एंड इंपॉर्टेंट डेट्स तो सभी को पता होनी चाहिए. अपने बर्थडे भी याद रखते हो, है ना? सो only important dates, and rest history is all about century. So what is history? As we have seen here, that history is just about the study of human past. ये और कुछ नहीं है, it is just the study of human past. So as you can see here, है ना? So what is history? History is all about the human past. है ना? It is all about human past. ठीक है. अब जब हम human past की बात करते हैं, है ना? What do you understand from human past? Now, why it is important? See, first of all, you will get to know the history of human evolution. Yes, how humans got evolved. How humans evolved. When humans got evolved, then how societies are evolved, or how societies are developed, then how villages are formed, and then how state is formed. That is the relevance of history. Okay. So let's see this. So as you can see here on your screen itself, that the first important thing is history is all about study of human past. History is unending dialogue between past, present and future. ये किसने कहा अभी हमने डिस्कस किया. It is given by E.H. Carr, है ना. ठीक है. So first we need to understand, as you can see this diagram here, first we need to understand the earth history. Here first we are going to discuss the earth history versus human history. इस डायग्राम को जो आप देख रहे हैं ना, यू नो व्हाट इज द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ दिस डायग्राम. द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ दिस डायग्राम इज सो दैट you can understand the difference between earth history and human history. ठीक है. What is the age of earth? As you can see here, what is the age of earth? So as you can see, earth is around 4500 million, or you can also call it as 4.5 billion years old. ठीक है, बहुत अच्छी बात है. Around 4.5 billion years ago earth was formed. ठीक है. Around 2.33, as you can see here, 2.33 billion years ago atmospheric oxygen got emerges. ठीक. Then come to bacteria. Now when we say bacteria, अब समझिएगा इस चीज को, है ना. So it is around the 1 billion years ago these bacteria got emerged. ठीक है. And then the most important thing, around 500 million years ago, 500 million years ago. So what happened around 500 million years ago? So let me tell you, fish and vertebrates appear, है ना. fish and vertebrates appear. अब इसके बाद आता है इंपॉर्टेंट फेज. ठीक है. अराउंड 300 million years ago, 300 million years ago. Now what was the most important development here? The most important development, as you can see here, reptiles and dinosaurs emerged. In geography it is called as, इसको क्या कहा जाता है? It is called as Mesozoic era. Mesozoic era, ये याद रखिएगा. And then you can see here that what happened around 100 million years ago. 100 million years ago, flowers and bees, they appeared. And इस period को क्या कहा जाता है ना. This is called as Cretaceous period. ठीक है. अब around 10, है ना, around 10 million years ago, आप देख सकते हैं this 10 million years ago. So what happened around 10 million years ago? These primates got emerged. और इसको हम कौन सा एपोक बोलते हैं? मियोसीन एपोक. ठीक है. So and so on. Clear? Around, as you can see here, 1 million years ago, fire was discovered. Use of fire by early humans. तो यहां पर आप देख सकते हैं use of fire by early human. So basically this whole chart is actually explaining the evolution. It actually explains the evolution. As you can see here, the timeline of a few important stages in evolution of life on earth. And you know when the life was started actually, है ना. अब लाइफ बेसिकली कब स्टार्ट हुई तो समझिए इस चीज को. द इवोल्यूशन ऑफ लाइफ was started around 3500 million years ago, or you can say 3.5 billion years ago. But that life was only related to flora and fauna. Okay. Now just try to understand, this is how the earth got evolved. Okay. Now as you can see here, 4 important pictures on your screen. अब ये 4 important pictures बहुत ही जरूरी है हिस्ट्री में समझने के लिए. अच्छा ठीक है. बेसिकली ये है क्या? यू कैन कॉल देम एज स्कॉलर्स. They are actually scholars. Now, these scholars are those people who actually study history, who study history. ठीक है? Now, these four scholars, four types of scholars, as you can see here, geologist, है ना, paleontologist, anthropologist and archaeologist. ठीक है? सबसे पहली बात, अब ये जियोलॉजिस्ट कौन होते हैं? जियोलॉजिस्ट का काम क्या होता है ना? जियोलॉजिस्ट का काम क्या होता है? दे एक्चुअली स्टडी द फिजिकल फीचर्स ऑफ अर्थ लाइक सॉइल, स्टोन्स, हिल्स, माउंटेन्स, एटसेट्रा एंड एटसेट्रा. Clear? Paleontologists, they actually study the remains of plants, animals, humans, है ना, which are actually around million years ago, जो पहले थे उनके फॉसिल्स को स्टडी किया जाता है. देन कम्स एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट. एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट का काम क्या होता है? एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट का काम होता है दे एक्चुअली फोकस ऑन ह्यूमन सोसाइटीज, हाउ अर्लीस्ट कल्चर गॉट डेवलप्ड from older times to present. And then comes to archaeologists. Archaeologists, they actually study the past by digging the remains or excavations. They actually study the remains of people, the remains of plants, animals, है ना, like उनके bones हो गए, teeth हो गए, ये सारी चीजें study करते हैं, है ना. तो basically fossils क्या होते हैं? अब यही बेसिक फाउंडेशन है. बहुत सारे लोग एडवांस प्रिपरेशन करते हैं बट उन्हें फॉसिल्स का मतलब ही नहीं पता, है ना. दे आर अनेबल टू अंडरस्टैंड what is the meaning of fossils, है ना. So here in that is why NCERTs are important, because you need to understand what is fossil, what is resources, what is excavation, है ना, what is archaeology, all these basic things. So what do you understand by the term fossils? Fossil basically होते हैं impressions of footprints, or you can say parts of plants, bones हो गया, है ना. Now these fossils are basically present in within the layers of soil, different layers of soil. That is why these things are important. Okay, I hope this much is clear. Now another important thing that we need to understand, how is time measured in history. अब हमें सबसे पहली चीज समझनी होगी कि टाइम को कैसे हम मेजर करते हैं हिस्ट्री में, है ना. ठीक है. First, we need to understand the historical system of time management or time measurement. ठीक है. अब सबसे पहले हम डिस्कस करेंगे फर्स्ट पॉइंट हियर, historical system of time measurement. फाइन. अब ये क्या है हिस्टोरिकल सिस्टम ऑफ टाइम मेजरमेंट, है ना. सी, डिफरेंट सोसाइटीज दे यूज डिफरेंट टाइम स्केल्स, है ना. दे यूज डिफरेंट टाइमलाइंस, है ना, यूजिंग मेजर इवेंट्स को यूज करते हैं. ठीक है. चलो, नाउ in history, basically the birth of an important person or start of any new reign or new timeline is actually marked as era. So what is the meaning of era? Era is considered as a distinct or different period of time where a major change was occurred, है ना, जहां पे मेजर चेंज हुआ. ठीक है. दैट इज कॉल्ड एज एरा. ठीक है. अब एरा को हम कैसे स्टडी कर सकते हैं, है ना. First of all, it can be studied through, this is the second point, through calendar system. Calendar system. ठीक है. Now what is this calendar system, है ना. तो कैलेंडर का समझिएगा, कैलेंडर इज कॉमनली यूज किया जाता है पूरे ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड, है ना. ठीक है. देयर आर डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ कैलेंडर ऑल्सो, बट वर्ल्ड वाइड वी यूज जियोर्जियन कैलेंडर, है ना. जियोर्जियन कैलेंडर. ठीक है. तो जियोर्जियन कैलेंडर क्या है? इट इज द करंट ग्लोबल स्टैंडर्ड. इट इज द करंट ग्लोबल स्टैंडर्ड. ठीक है. Because it is used commonly worldwide. ठीक है. What is the structure? What is the structure? What is the structure of this Georgian calendar? 12 months, 365 days. Yes. 12 months, 365 days. ठीक है. And leap year comes after every 4 years, as you can see here, है ना. Leap year comes after every 4 years. ठीक है. Now, after this, the question here is, sir, we have seen various, you can say, notations in history like CE or AD, है ना, as well as BC or BCE. These things we have seen. ठीक है. Now, what is the reference point here? Reference point. अब जब हम कैलेंडर की बात करते हैं, डेट्स की बात करते हैं, the reference point. Now here the reference point is birth of Christ. Yes, birth of Christ. Okay. The years which are written previously or which are written earlier, the birth of Jesus Christ, are considered as BCE or BC. Clear? BC means before Christ, before the birth of Christ. BCE means or before common era. Today, the worldwide CE and BCE use. CE means common era which starts after the birth of Jesus Christ, and before the birth of Jesus Christ is called as before common era, that is BC. I hope this much is clear to all of you. है ना? ठीक है. For example, India got independence, as you can see here. India gained independence can be written as 1947. Yes. Clear? Or 1914 C. है ना? On the other hand, if you see the birth of Buddha, है ना? The birth of Buddha is written as 560 BC. That is before the birth of Christ, birth of Buddha. ठीक है. And you know what is the critical concept here? चलिए अब मैं आपको यहां पर बताता हूं what is the critical concept. Okay. The critical concept here is, as you can see this blue box, है ना? The critical concept here is there is no 0 year in Georgian calendar. Yes, there is no 0 year in Georgian calendar. That is the critical point. The Georgian calendar has no 0 year. अब आप कहेंगे सर then how it was started, है ना. Now try to understand, as you can see here, that if you want to calculate this, है ना, जब मैंने कहा कि 0 नहीं है, that means year 1 BCE, है ना, 1 BCE. After 1 BCE, immediately ये याद रखिएगा, immediately comes 1 CE, which means there is no 0. There is no. Immediately after 1 BCE, 1 CE came. That is common era, है ना, birth of Jesus Christ. ठीक है. अब ये कैसे कैलकुलेट किया जाता है? फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ यू वांट टू कैलकुलेट द बर्थ ऑफ बुद्धा, what is the date of birth? 560 BCE, है ना. If you want to calculate this, and if you want to calculate that Buddha was there, है ना, how many years ago? So how you are going to calculate? You are going to calculate like this: 560 you will write, plus suppose you can, as you can see here, 2024 तक का अगर हमें निकालना है ना, so 2024, and you have to do minus 1. Why? Because there is no 0. So Buddha used to exist around 2583 years, 8300 years ago. This is how the dates are calculated. Okay. Now as you can see here, this timeline also, है ना, this timeline is very important, which is given in your NCERT. Okay. So this is actually the important timeline, or you can say the chronology, which is important for your examination. ठीक है. Now first of all, we need to understand the sources of history. अब सबसे पहले हम क्या डिस्कस करेंगे, sources of history, है ना, and there we will be completing all these timelines. ठीक है, तो अब ये टाइमलाइंस को हमें कैसे कैलकुलेट करना है ना, ये सारी चीजें तो हमने डिस्कस की. नाउ वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल दी सोर्सेज, है ना, सोर्सेज कैसे हमें पढ़ना है और समझना है. So what do you understand by this term sources? Now why sources are important in history? See, UPSC is a constitutional body. Judiciary is also a constitutional body. ठीक है. Now judiciary always believe in facts, evidences, है ना. Otherwise things are considered as illogical according to judiciary. Similarly, UPSC is also a constitutional body. UPSC also believes in sources. If you are writing particular thing in your answer, UPSC always asks for the sources, because without sources, if you are going to say anything, that will be considered as a myth. And if you go through your PYQs, you can understand UPSC always asks those questions where proper sources, proper facts, proper evidences are given. है ना? That is why this is the relevance of source in UPSC as well as in history. When we talk about any empire, any text, any scripture, so without source, it is not possible to tell you the whole story or whole event. That is why the sources are important. Now let's try to understand what is sources of history. ठीक है? What do you understand by this term sources of history? Sources is like a place, person, text, or an object. है ना? Now, from sources we gather information about our past or important event or any era or period. That is why sources are very important. ठीक है ना? That this is the relevance of sources. Now, how many types of sources are there? That is also very important. है ना? So first we need to understand different types of sources. Now, as you can see here, this diagram, wonderful. इस बार जो न्यू एनसीईआरटीज में डायग्राम्स दिए गए होंगे, है ना, बिलीव मी, a wonderful way of presentation by NCERTs, है ना. So there are different sources of history, so I would like to explain all these sources here itself, है ना. Okay, just give me 1 minute. हाँ, so as you can see here, the sources of history. Now sources, different types of sources are there. Now first of all, the most important source we can say is archaeological sources. So as you can see here, structures. So these are archaeological sources. Now archaeological sources, in archaeological sources, the important thing is excavations. Yes, I know. Now archaeological sources, study of monuments, study of mounds, all these things are there. So basically archaeological sources हमें क्या बताते हैं? It actually tells us the systematic digging of monuments or systematic digging to uncover the remains. Yes. What is archaeological sources? Systematic digging to uncover the remains. Fine. Now it actually talks about the study of structures like monuments, mounds, etc. Then excavations like human, animal, plants remains. Then tools and weapons, figurines and ornaments, pottery and toys. Then habitations and burials. All these things comes under archaeological sources. Second important source is literature. Yes, literary sources. Now literary sources can be divided into two parts. Now, what are those two parts? One is religious literature, another is secular literature. Another important type of literature is foreign text. Foreign text. Okay. Now, in religious literature, what will come? Vedas, epics like Ramayana, Mahabharata, etc. है ना. Now what are the things which comes under the secular literature? अब secular literature में क्या आएगा? Secular literature like related to text, poems, praise of king or queen, prashastis. Okay, so Sangam literature, poems and plays, historical text will be there. Arthashastra, first book on statecraft, written by Kautilya or Chanakya. Collection of stories are there. Scientific books like Aryabhat, Varamihir, all these kind of scholars are there. And then, as I have said, foreign accounts. So, as you can see here on your screen itself, let me show you. So, on your screen, as you can see, the foreign accounts or foreign sources, which is written by travelers, and historical chronicle. Like, for example, in Chandragupta Maurya's court, there was one Greek ambassador whose name was Megasthenes, who has written a book, Indica, which is considered as the primary source for Mauryan Empire. Okay. So, likewise, there are various foreign travelers. Megasthenes came. Then Chinese Buddhist traveler like Wen Sang. Then other Fahian. These are the foreign travelers from ancient India. In medieval India, Ibn Battuta, Peter Mundi, Al-Baruni, important foreign travelers are there. So they also provide important accounts or important sources for particular dynasties. Okay. Then comes inscriptional sources. Now, this diagram is given. First of all, I would like to tell you what is the basic thing. Study of inscription is called as epigraphy. Yes, study of inscriptions called as epigraphy. You just note down all these keywords which will be relevant for your advanced classes. Epigraphy. Epigraphy means study of inscription. Now, in an inscription, manuscript, copper plates and coins. Okay, ठीक है. Now, what is the definition of inscription? बहुत सारे लोगों को definition ही नहीं पता है inscription. See, the definition of inscription means the inscriptions or the writings which are written on hard surface. Inscription का मतलब क्या है? Inscription means engraved writings. Try to understand. Inscription means engraved writings on hard surface. Hard surface means it can be a metal, it can be a stone. Getting my point? That is called as epigraphy or inscription. Clear? It can be manuscript, copper plate inscriptions are there. Then coins. Acha. When we say coins, study of coins called as numismatics. It is called as numismatics. Coins also provides very important information in history. Like, I would like to give you one example. Indo-Greeks started gold coins in India. Yes, Indo-Greek rulers started gold coins in India. So, when we see gold coins, so we get to know that yes, Indo-Greeks, they came and they ruled certain parts of India, and they also provide important sources of post-modern period. Okay, that is why these sources are important. Okay, so I hope this much is clear to all of you. And then comes oral sources. Oral sources, it may be oral stories, folklore, regional stories, all these things comes under oral sources. Okay, now we'll talk about historian. Now this paragraph is related to historian and other professionals. Now we are going to discuss about historians and other professionals. Fine. Now, historians and other professionals. Now, what is historian? Who is considered as historian? Historian किसको कहा जाता है? A person who studies and writes about past, that person is called as historian. है ना? जब when historians study, say, a king or queen 1500 years ago, an ancient monument or a war or some items of trade, they take great care to gather these kind of information, and they consult with other sources also. Getting my point? They consult with other sources also. Okay, fine. Now, other important professionals like collaborators, है ना? You must have heard this term, collaborators. Now, who are these collaborators? Collaborators किसको कहा जाता है? Collaborators who collaborate with historians, they are archaeologists, they are paleontologists, है ना? Anthropologists, they are considered as collaborators. So collaborators are those people who also collaborate or cooperate with historian and to help historian in gathering the information. They are archaeologists, they are paleontologists, they are anthropologists, etc. and etc. So they are called as collaborators. Okay. Now, what is the modern method? Now we need to understand what is the modern method to get the information, like scientific studies of ancient climate, scientific studies of ancient climate, scientific studies of chemistry, है ना, chemistry, then chemical related information from the excavated object. Excavated object, it can be bones, it can be teeth, potteries, anything. Okay, ठीक है. After all these things, historians gather particular information. Okay, now what are the important sources, है ना? So recent and modern sources के बारे में अभी हमने डिस्कस किया. Now एक चीज और बता देता हूँ. Yes, what are recent and modern sources? Okay. So what do you understand by this term, recent and modern sources? Newspapers, है ना, provide important evidence. Newspaper provide important evidence. Fine. Okay. Now we'll discuss the beginning of human history. है ना? Now, as you can see here, this picture, है ना? So now we'll discuss about the beginning of human history. ठीक है? When we talk about human history, the first thing that comes in our mind is how humans are evolved. First question, you should always ask question. है ना? Okay. How humans got evolved. ठीक है? So when we talk about the evolution of human beings, so the cycle starts from Homo habilis. Then Homo habilis means four-pawed animal. Then these Homo habilis became upright man like this. That means Homo erectus. And then gradually their brain size became large and they became wise human beings, skillful human beings. So they came to be called as Homo sapiens. This Homo sapiens. So modern humans are called as Homo sapiens. Okay, okay. Now modern humans, they existed for about 3 lakh years. They have been existed for 3 lakh years, है ना? And this appears to be very long timeline, है ना? But if you compare this timeline, है ना, with the age of Earth, so it is a very tiny fraction, tiny timeline, है ना, small timeline. Okay. Now, how about the life of early humans? How early humans used to live? Okay. So now we are going to discuss the life of early humans. So this paragraph is related to life of early humans. Now, I would like to give you certain points, only those points are important. After that, there is no need to read history. Just Jot down all these important points. So how the life of early humans used to be there. Okay. First of all, they used to live in a group. Group living was there. It was small groups called as bands. This group living will not be considered as society. It will be considered as band, a very small group. Okay. Second important thing, their occupation, hunting and gathering. Hunting and gathering. Okay. Another important thing, they had a belief in life after death, or you can also call it as after life. Okay. So what was the primary activity of early humans? Hunting and gathering. This is the primary activity, hunting and gathering. ये याद रखिएगा. What is hunting and gathering? Collecting edible plants and fruits, etc. Then another important thing was how they used to seek shelter. They used to either they used to live in the open or inside the caves. है ना? Live in open and in caves. ठीक है. Then they had a belief life after death. Is there any spiritual element? अब ये भी question. Spiritual element. Is there any spiritual element which was present at that time? So possibly they had the belief in natural element. Believe in natural element. है ना? They believe in natural element. That is also fine. Natural element means because they were dependent on nature completely, so they might worship nature. Okay. Might. Why I'm using might here? Because there is no written records, first of all. Based on the excavation, archaeological things like bones, like plants, potteries, you know, we can say that they used to believe in natural elements. Okay. Now, then comes first crops. Okay. Then comes first crops. ठीक है. It is something which is related to habitat and technology. Now, this paragraph is related to habitat technology. ठीक है. Now it is related to habitat and technology. Now try to understand the first crops, है ना? Shelters. What they have used for shelters, as I have said, temporary camps or used to live in open or inside the caves. ठीक है. When they have started using the fire, as you can see here, they use fire. Just now we have discussed in one of the diagrams also, na? So around 1 million years ago, they started using fire. Okay. Now, so gradually they started aspect of their life. They are also visible in rock paintings. Yes, the most important source, rock paintings like Bhimbetka caves in Madhya Pradesh. These caves are related to the Stone Age, particularly Stone Age. And those paintings are actually based on different themes, multiple themes, you can say. These paintings are based on multiple themes, like themes related to fighting, animal riding, household work. And even if you see those paintings in animal riding, in war scenes, only males are shown, and in household work only females are shown. That means at that time there was also a clear division of labor. At that time also there was a clear division of labor. That is why Bhimbetka caves got UNESCO World Heritage Site status. Fine. Okay. Now another important thing. Now the first crops, this is something which is related. Early humans were hunter and gatherer. This is a transition. A human who was hunter and gatherer started producing the crops, which means started agriculture, became food producer. है ना? So this is considered as transition to agricultural society. So this paragraph, which is something related to transition to agricultural society. Okay, now try to understand. Ice age. Ice age was ended around 12,000 years ago. Ended around 12,000 years ago. So this ice age was there from 1 lakh years ago to 12,000 years ago. Okay. After the end of ice age, so around 12,000 years ago, there was a change in climate. When there was change in climate, flora and fauna also change, as you can see here. So change in climate resulted into the change in flora and fauna. So now the living conditions, because of the change in climate, ice age, extreme cold. Now there was warm climatic conditions. So living conditions improved for humans. Why? Because ice age ended and warm climatic conditions started. Warm climate started. Now, because of this warm climate, because of the change in climate, gradually some grass, like grain bearing grasses came into the picture. So the people started observing those grasses and then they started settling down and cultivating these cereals and grains. Then they also started domesticating the animals like cattle, goats, etc. So this was actually a transition from hunting, gathering to food producing to settled agriculture. ये transition आया, change from hunting, gathering to settled agriculture. That means agriculture was started. They started cultivating what? Cultivating cereals and grains. Then they also started domesticating the animals like goat, cattle, etc. Clear? Now population also started increasing. In this scenario, more food was available, and in this way, when the population got increased, so people in Stone Age gradually they started settling down near the rivers. तो धीरे धीरे स्टोन एज के लोगों ने कहां पे पॉपुलेशन इंक्रीज हुई, सो दे स्टार्टेड सेटलिंग डाउन नियर द रिवर्स. Okay, now rivers, not only because of the availability of water but also because of the soil. The soil nearby the rivers was more fertile and it is important for growing crops. That is why people started settling down near the rivers. So nearby rivers, because of three important reasons. First is availability of water was there. Second, fertile soil was there. Third important thing was that soil was important for growing crops. So that was easier for crop cultivation. Now in this scenario, as you can see here, now see this picture. This picture tells you the important story. Okay. Now, because of these things, development of communities takes place. Yes, as you can see here, this page. Now, because of this, development of communities. So, communities got developed, society got developed with the birth of agriculture. So, with the birth of agriculture, what happened? Communities got developed, and when communities have got developed, villages were also developed. Clear? Now try to understand. So first of all, when communities gets developed, then comes social complexity. As you can see this word here, social complexity also came into the structure. Now social complexity in the sense leadership structures got developed. अब आपको leadership दिखेंगे, leadership structures or chief got developed. है ना? So leaders, now why these leaders are important? Why these leaders are important? Now leaders are responsible for community welfare. They are responsible for community welfare. I hope this much is clear to all of you, है ना? Now they started practicing the collective work for common welfare. Now the basic question here is, what about land? Whether land was under the control of individual? Initially land was a collective commodity. Land ownership जो होती थी, initially land ownership was collective, है ना? So initially land ownership was collective, there was no individual. समझ में आ रहा है? तो अब इन सेटलमेंट्स का ग्रोथ कैसे हुआ समझिएगा. अब ये सेटलमेंट्स कैसे बनेंगे, तो अब आपको मैं एक चार्ट दे देता हूं, समझिए इस चीज को, हाउ यू आर गोइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड दीज थिंग्स, है ना? आई होप, सी वी हैव स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम अर्ली ह्यूमंस, हंटर एंड गैदरर्स who are continuously moving from one place to other. Now the collective ownership came, leaders got emerged, है ना? I hope this much is clear to all of you, है ना, that uh, how these things are evolved. We have started from the evolution of human beings when nothing was there, and then they started hunting and gathering. Then gradually population got increased, villages came into the picture, and land ownership, chiefs came into the picture. So initially you will see that hamlets were there, small groups, communities turned into villages. Now why villages are formed? Due to agriculture, okay? And then gradually these villages turned into towns, development. This is called as progressive evolution or progressive development. I hope this much is clear to all of you. This is how the transition took place, okay? So gradually these people, है ना? Now another concept here is, when agriculture came, now you need something to store the food grains, then birth of potteries will take place. So because of agriculture, you will see birth of potteries, clear? Pottery system to store the food grains, clear? So at that time humans, they started making pots and clay objects, okay, and clay objects. So I hope this much is clear to all of you, and this is the relevance, okay? So remember this thing. Then you will see, after all these developments, you will see the discovery of first metal, discovery of first metal, that is copper, around 3500 BCE. That is the before common era. Copper was discovered in around 3500 BC. It was the first metal which got discovered. And then you will see the second important metal was iron. Iron was discovered around 1000 BC. So these things are very important. I hope this much is clear to all of you. So this is all about this chapter, that is chapter number 4, which is something related to the basic thing in class 6 social science NCERT. So in this whole chapter, what is the crux of this chapter? The crux of this chapter starts from the timeline, that how one should prepare for history, how you need to understand the timeline. Second, how you should read history, what are the sources of history. Then third important thing, how humans got evolved. Then how the activities of humans started, like hunter and gatherer, then they transformed into the food producer, that is agriculture. That means earlier they used to live in a small group, and because of the agriculture, birth of villages, or villages got evolved. है ना? This is how the villages got evolved. So in this way, the early humans who were hunters and gatherers transformed into the food producer. And then we have seen the first metal which got discovered, that is copper, around 3500 BC. Second metal, iron, which got discovered around 1000. Okay. And with the growth of population, people started residing nearby rivers. Why? Because river provided water. Second, fertile soil. Third, easier for crop cultivation. This is how the evolution took place in the life of human beings, and this evolution is called as progressive evolution or progressive development. I hope this much is clear to all of you. So see you in the next video, next chapter, that is chapter number 5. Thank you so much.